Hello, today we're going to work with this fabulous Lisa Eldridge palette. I absolutely love it. So let's just get started. I've already done all my makeup. As always, I use an eye primer because I have oily eyelids. And I'm gonna take this little guy. I think he's like a medium blender by Sydney Grace. And I'm gonna go into this dark color right here. And just tap this into the outer. Tap it, I don't know what I'm doing, brushing it, brush this in. I have played with this palette a bunch and I love it. It's awesome. It is sold out on Lisa Eldridge's website. I sent them an email. They said they're going to get more. I actually bought it from Mercari and I can't remember how much it is on her website, but I paid about $10 more for a used eyeshadow palette. I can't even believe it. I've heard of this and I just did it, but this palette was well worth it. Lisa Eldridge's website though, they answered my email and they said they are bringing it back, but they don't know when. And she's very busy doing all the things. I just finished reading her book, Face Painting, which is really interesting, all about the history of makeup, all the way back to ancient days. It was very fascinating. I loved it. It started me on a whole thing. Then I read The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. It's about women in the 1920s who, they knew radium was dangerous, but they had them painting watch dials with it. And they would dip their brush into the radium and then shape it with their mouths. They were ingesting radium. And then they would paint the watch dial face and then it would glow. And these women had to, once they started having health problems, they had to find doctors that were willing to work with them to figure out what was wrong with them. And the doctors had to, they'd never seen radiation poisoning before or whatever you would call that. And they had to develop tests to prove it. It was amazing. And because of these women, OSHA was created. Isn't that crazy? Crazy and wonderful. So pretty wild. And then, so Kate Moore wrote that. And then after I finished that, it said, do you want to read, another book by Kate Moore called The Woman They Could Not Silence? I'm like, okay. Oh my gosh. So in 1850, y'all, if you're married, if you're a man and you're married and your wife gets on your nerves, or maybe she talks too much or she reads too many novels or just, whatever, she's just not acting right, have her thrown in a mental asylum and keep her there until she learns how to behave, or just leave her there for forever because, she just drives you nuts. Totally normal. Women had zero rights. We had no rights in the law. Once you were married, there were no laws to protect us. It's unfathomable for today, It's just amazing. So this woman was locked up in an institution for 3 years. At first, she was treated wonderfully. She's incredibly intelligent. Her name is Elizabeth Packard. And she was treated fabulous. But she started challenging the doctor in charge, because there were a lot of sane women in there, and she started challenging him. And so he locked her up with what you would term the crazy people. She was scared. Knives would be thrown. She would get hurt by the other women locked up. But she came to discover that, and they were treated so bad. Like, they were treated pretty good in the first ward where she was, but when she got thrown into this really bad one, but she came to discover when she got in the really bad one, like, a lot of those women were seriously, severely, clinically depressed. And she's over there diagnosing it, and she's not a doctor, but she was so far ahead of her time because that wasn't a thought. If a woman was too intelligent, in fact, they just thought that might addle our brains. It might just give us the vapors. It's just wild. And she had differing religious beliefs from her husband, so that meant she was crazy. But yet they ended up doing a trial way down the road. I'm getting ahead of myself, but they ended up doing a trial for her, and she wasn't allowed to go see if she wanted to study another religion. But other men who came on trial and talked about it, they were like, well, yeah, we left our religion because we studied this other one and we joined it. And they're like, well, that's okay for you to do that, but it's not okay for Elizabeth to do that. I mean, it's just the things I take for granted now. I had no idea that it was just 200 years ago. We didn't have all these rights. And she fought for women's rights when she got out of the asylum. She fought for them almost to the end of her life. The book is so good. It is amazing. I just had no idea. And it is written, it's all true. Everything where it is like, she said this or he said this, that is all taken from historical documents, everything. And if it's something that's not historical, she'll say, Elizabeth might have been feeling da-da-da-da-da at this instance, you know? So, I mean, you realize, okay, well, maybe she was, and I agree. I think she was. I don't know. She wasn't scared. She didn't back down. And because of her, she started us being treated as equals. And that's all she was looking for. She just wanted women to have a voice. And she was so smart. Oh, she was so smart. I mean, you know, whenever they say, is there someone in history you'd like to meet? I'm always like, Jesus. I mean, you know, but I'm going to meet Jesus one day. So I'm not really, you know, I don't know. There's just nobody I want to meet. But at this point, I'm like, I want to meet Elizabeth Packard. Like, how was she so intelligent in 1850? It just blows my mind. It was such a good book. As you can tell, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Okay, so there's that. Look how cute that is. Let me see. Sometimes I have to look at my phone camera to see if I'm even, because I love to do this one darker, and it looks like it is just a little darker. It's my favorite to make it darker and put more over there. My little office in here is shaping up. I bought a piece of furniture and I'm in the middle of painting it, but I don't love painting furniture, so I'm taking my sweet time. But I also don't love for unpainted furniture, halfway painted furniture to be sitting around in here. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to finish this. Okay, so there's two little shimmers in this. There's this one and this one. So I'm gonna go with this first. It's the lightest color, and you know, I just use my finger. Oops, but I tapped a darker color too. So let's back off of that. And I go in right here, and this is super sparkly, wonderful. And it doesn't have, a lot of times when you do something with a lot of sparkle, it has a lot of fallout. And this is not, it's not falling out anywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and just bring this like a little over halfway across. And now let me do this one. I love this palette though. It is so fantastic. And I think it would be great. I mean, you know, I just wear it whenever. I'm off from work today. I'm gonna run some errands, but I think it'd be great for a night out. Oh, and now I'm taking this darker color right there, and I'm just doing this in the middle, kind of just blend it in. And I'll do it over here. Okay. Yeah. Ta-da! Okay, now let me finish. So another great book I've read, have I mentioned The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks? Absolutely incredible. So if I can't remember if I've talked about that or not. I kind of don't think I have. It's so good. It is so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do my eyeliner. I am using the Victoria Beckham my eyeliner right now, and I'm kind of digging it. Let's see. Sometimes I need to sharpen it, so let's make that happen. All right, so The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. In 1951, Henrietta Lacks goes to Johns Hopkins because she feels like something's wrong. It turns out she had cervical cancer. Well, there was a doctor at Johns Hopkins who, so think, this is wild too. This just blows my mind. You know, they didn't know cancer was in stages. In 1951, they just thought like cancer, cervical cancer that was on the outer lining of your cervix, that's this cancer. And then cancer that was more invasive, that's a different kind of cervical cancer. But this doctor, he said, no, he said, this cancer that you think is okay is going to turn into this more invasive cancer. And he was laughed out of medical forums. So he knew that he needed to prove his theory. And to prove his theory, he needed cancer cells and he needed live human cells. And he had been trying for years. I don't even know how many years he'd been trying. And so everybody who came in for a biopsy at Johns Hopkins, some of their cells were sent down to this guy's lab. And so this is 1951. You didn't need permission. You didn't need nothing. You didn't sign a form. Anyway, so this woman, Henrietta Lacks, African-American, came in with cervical cancer. They sent a biopsy of her cells down to him. And her cells lived. They're still alive today. They're called HeLa because her name is Henrietta Lacks. And so you just put HeLa on there. They don't name cells like that anymore. But because of her cells, we have the polio vaccine, we have blood pressure medication, we have medication for AIDS, we have genetics research. It has shaped everything in medical history. I had no idea. I didn't know any of this stuff. It is so good, and I'm not into medical details. This book is amazing. I did not want it to end. Rebecca Skloot wrote it. It took her 10 years, and she knocked it out of the ballpark. She did an amazing job. So good. So I highly recommend that as well. I've just been reading the best books lately. They're phenomenal. I love to read. And I listen to audiobooks too. I think I think Henrietta was an audiobook. Oh, it was, and it was really good. Whoever read it, they did a great job. But the things you find out about medical history in America will blow your mind in this book. I mean, it blew my mind. So I'm just going to step out and say it's going to blow your mind. Unless you already know this stuff. Aren't I having a good hair day? Yeah. Now I'm going to curl my lashes. I love this eyeshadow though. I think it's so fantastic. Curl these lashes up, get it all finished, and it'll be done. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like. And if you have any suggestions for a video you'd like to see, let me know. And I'll finish my makeup and then post a picture of this. I'll see you next time.